Thanks for staying with us. Now, referencing the Child Abuse and Neglect User Manual series, child abuse and neglect is a community concern. Each community has a legal and moral obligation to promote the safety, permanency, and well-being of children, which includes responding effectively to child maltreatment. At the state and local levels, professionals assume various roles and responsibilities ranging from prevention, identification, and reporting of child maltreatment to intervention, assessment, and treatment. In a home suffering from domestic violence, the child suffers, and they suffer psychologically, physically, and socially. And we are asking, what ways can we protect children amidst domestic violence, right? Please let us hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-4663. You can also tweet at us at WaveShowAfrica1 with the hashtag WaveShow. So I want to bring in Taiwo Akinlami in a minute, but I just wanted to hear your thoughts because we talked about it yesterday, based off of the back of Osinachi's story and the video I played around the children that kept on praying around their mother not to die and all of that, right? What do you think? How can we protect children? Because we cannot take away the fact that domestic violence still occurs and it will continue to happen. But how do we protect the minds of these children that it's not going to become something again they will now begin to relive in the future?
It's, we had touched on it just a little bit
Yesterday,
just before we went on the break, even today, when we talked about programming. It's very important for us to, and the mind, how powerful the mind is. Whatever we feel our minds with is what we eventually become. So when we have more conscious parents who are consciously aware of the actions and how these actions begin to
impact and shape the child.
Exactly, the mind of the child, then we'll be deliberate. A lot of things, and we established that yesterday when we said a lot of people are not enlightened. And because they're not enlightened, they do not have that knowledge to know how impactful their actions are. And they don't take responsibility for it. So it has to cut across the different levels of growth. You're talking about the individual level. You're talking about relationships. You're talking about the kind of community that we're beginning to grow for the children to live in. You're talking about the society that they will eventually find themselves. So at the end of the day, if we find more and more conscious parents, more and more conscious communities, more and more conscious societies where awareness is created, where people are mindful of what they say before they say it, we're gradually forming a group of people who are insensitive. You go on Twitter,
very careless,
go on social media, everybody just blots out whatever comes out without taking responsibility for the damage that it's going to cause on people. You see cyberbullying, you see all those things. So it's very important for us to begin to groom the same way we have groomed these children to become gradually violent without even being conscious of it. The same way we have to consciously help them unlearn some of the things that they have seen.
Absolutely. And declutter their minds.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So Taiwo Akinlami is a friend of the house. I mean, is always available to discuss issues around parenting, around child protection, because he's a very, very strong advocate he's a parent rights, social protection advocate and publisher, and he's also Africa's foremost child protection thinker and practitioner. His unique philosophy and techniques on family strengthening child protection and related matters have been well received in over 133 countries. So Taiwo Akinlami is always, the best person to speak with when it comes to issues around child protection, because this is what we're having today. Thank you so much. He's joined us live from the US. Thank you so much, Taiwo Akinlami, for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure being with you guys again today.
Absolutely. So Taiwo,
countless missionary journeys.
Absolutely, and there's going to be so much more missionary journeys because domestic violence is never going to go away. We'll still keep having issues where a man or a woman will beat their partner. So either way, we'll still have issues where there's emotional abuse. We'll still have issues where there's even death.
Children are exposed.
And children are in the mix of all of these things, right? So for me, having talked about the especially the recent happenings with the late singer Osinachi. We talked about it yesterday and all of that. So having had all those conversations, it was important for us to also try to put a spotlight on those children, right? Can you help us break down how abuse, domestic violence and all of that, how it impacts children, right? Let's start from there, and before we can now start talking about how we can then protect them, even amidst all of those things. So how does it impact the child? So parents will hear it and understand that this thing is deeper and is beyond you and I.
Well, thank you very much once again for having me. I think, firstly, the abuser of today, the violent man of today, the violent woman of today, probably witnessed violence yesterday.
Yes,
Absolutely.
The only way he or she knows to resolve issues is through violence. And I'll tell you a quick story. In the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, a story was told at the beginning of a couple. They got married and they were having an argument. There was an altercation, very hot argument. At the point where the husband stopped talking, the wife started running. So the husband was saying, come back, don't run away. I'm not going to do anything to you. So when they were settling the matter, the wife said, in our family, you kept talking, you must be talking. Anytime anybody stopped talking, the person was looking for a cudgel, an iron, or a stick, or a club to use. So when the husband stopped talking, immediately her program told her to start running. So the husband said, look, in my own family, when there is a lot of altercation like this, and nobody is going to back down for another, we are taught that somebody should give in. And that's what I did. Now look at those two people from two different backgrounds dealing with their programs in a marriage. So if we see the overreaching effect of abuse, of children witnessing abuse at home, then it will be a guiding inspiration for us to want to say that children must not witness it. That's number one point I want to make. So today's abusers were probably yesterday's
victims. The witness abuse yesterday.
The witness abuse. They themselves suffered abuse. And so today, they have become abusive. And so it is important that we understand that today, I don't think we have domestic violence issue. We don't have marriage issues. We don't have leadership issues. We have only one problem: mismanaged childhood, manifesting in dysfunctional adulthood. And if we are going to change the tide, it is therefore important that we begin to pay attention to today's children. Very, very important, so that they will not witness what today's abusers witness, so that by tomorrow they become abusers themselves. You look at the level of bullying within the school system. It tells you that our children are becoming violent. The only way they feel they should resolve issues is through violence. We still have the Sylvester Omoni case, allegedly bullied to death. So for me, the impact of abuse is eternal, except there's divine intervention. So for me, we need to understand that one of the definitions of trauma, of abuse of children, one of the definitions is simple. When children witness abuse, is defined as one of the definitions of trauma, of abuse for children. When they witness abuse, when they witness another person being abused, they witness their dad, they witness their mom, they witness themselves being beaten. Being a witness to that kind of inhuman treatment, inhumanity to man, is a form of abuse.
Okay, no more.
Wow. As in, it's a very, very sore spot for us to discuss, because when it comes to children, these are people who are vulnerable. They're easily manipulated. So imagine manipulating a child in a violent way, and they learn very well. They learn very well, and they will probably do even more. So we see a lot of maltreatment going on. In fact, I wasn't surprised, but I did a little bit of research, and I found out that this is not even just a Nigerian problem. It's not an
It's not a
African
Nigerian problem, it's a global
It's
problem.
a global problem. Why is it that we have found ourselves in this crisis as a global community? Let me put it that way.
So this is what I'm going to say. When you look at domestic violence is a global problem. Now the whole idea of, and it has been accentuated by COVID-19 pandemic, the lockdown. People were in each other's faces a lot, and they couldn't deal with that, and that escalated the problem. Some people are dealing with post-traumatic disorder. Some people are dealing with traumatic disorder. There's a lot that people are going through. People have lost their jobs. People have
lost their
taken
homes.
to so many things. So because of that, there is heightened sensitivity. There's heightened, anger, pent-up anger in so many people, and they look for the next available person who they are going to unleash that anger to. Now, but this is the difference. In all over the world is a major problem, but the response of society differ from society to society. In some societies, the first world societies, they have learned how to respond to this kind of issues. For example, there is support system for people within, welfare system within the states. In a third world country like Nigeria, there's no such. So the thing at the end of the day is that children now find themselves a place that is supposed to be the most peaceful place on the earth for them becomes the most troublesome place. The place where they are supposed to grow. They're supposed to express themselves. Somebody told me that a man is very creative in creating problems. He was telling me about a violent man, that man, his creativity lies in his capacity to find problems from the simplest thing in life that you think will not cause issue. It will, by the time he brings out 10 issues from it, you yourself, you will bow. So when children are now looking over their shoulders, a school told me that school was on vacation. A child came to meet the principal and said, long vacation. He said, is there nothing you can tell my parents? Maybe that we are doing something in school, we are preparing for something, because I do not want to go home. So for me, that is very sad. And we must understand that all of these things, because children are supposed to enjoy peace, they are supposed to enjoy innocence, they are supposed to enjoy their curiosity is supposed to be intact. Children are supposed to be joyful. Children are supposed to experience freedom. All of these are attacked when the home front is in turmoil. I experienced it as a child. When we closed and wanted to go home from school, I wasn't looking forward to going home. When people came to visit us, when they came to visit my parents, when they were about to leave, I became apprehensive. I became afraid, because we did not know what could happen when those people leave. So people being around in our house became a source of comfort, because I knew my father would not want to do anything funny in the presence of those people that were supposed to be close to him. But when those people leave, I knew that there was going to be crisis. So for me, home was not sweet home for me. We did not close from school, and I felt like going home. It was not in the evening when everybody was expecting their parents to come home. I wasn't expecting when my father was coming, I wasn't looking forward to receiving him. And I saw him many times, pounded my mom, beat my mom. And in some cases, I became a prosecution witness. I had to, so the matter is taken to the Supreme Court of the landlord, and the landlord wanted to find the matter, who was wrong, who was right. And because they were not trained, they didn't know better, they will now call me or call my sibling and say, okay, who first slapped who first beat who? And they expect me to be a witness in that place. I just broke down. Many times I'll just break down. Because you see, breaking down again is a two-way strategy. Number one, I was traumatized. Number two, if my father was wrong, as he was wrong many times, I could not witness against him. Because if I witnessed against him,
you will be the victim when you get home.
When we go back to our apartment, I was going to be in trouble. He was going to tie my hands, he was going to tie my legs. He was going to strip me naked and give me 6 strokes of the cane, and he'll go and sit down. And that could go on for half a day. So it was in my self-best interest to pretend as if I broke down, which was too much for a child to manage. So I can speak directly to the trauma that accompanies this whole idea of domestic violence. And I think until couple understand that we don't have to marry, number one, we don't have to marry. Number two, if we marry, we don't have to bring children. Because what is going on today is that there are people who have never been married before, but they are divorcees. They not get married. You see, you get my point. They have never been married before, but they are divorcees. But they not get married. Now, when 2 divorcees get married, it's going to end in violence, and it's going to end in abuse of children. Now, in the midst of that divorceness, or whatever it is called, that tumor, they now bring children. Because, see, I speak to women. There was a time I was counseling close to 13 women who were experiencing domestic violence. They needed legal advice, and that's how we started our program, Women Working with Children. I was talking to a woman. It was when she was pregnant with her first child that her husband started beating her. Then she still had the second one. She had the third one. She had the fourth one. It was when she was still pregnant with the first one. That's when the husband started beating her. And she didn't seek for help. She felt everything was going to be okay. And I asked myself the question, is it okay for you to know that a place is not safe and take your children there and bring children into it? It ought not to be so. So now, what do I mean by 2 divorcees? Now, people are divorced from the reality of who they are. Their childhood has been messed up. Instead of them to look for help, they believe that the way forward is to carry another person to join them. So when you are not well, you now carry another person to join you, and you see that in the marriage, most of the time, these 13 women that I was speaking to, none of them, all of them saw the sign. They saw it coming from courtship. Then this idea, one of them told me, everybody told me about this guy. I said, somebody cannot be this bad. Somebody cannot be this wicked. I want to go and try it out. She was pregnant with the second child when the man threw her out. And this man did not see that second child until the child was 5 years old. So these are the kind of things people deal with. So why won't we sit down and ask ourselves the question, is marriage compulsory? If we are not sure that we are able to deal with ourselves. I became a Christian at the age of 27. I didn't go near marriage until 9 years after, when I was 36 years old. When it was clear to me that I could at least handle another person. And I tell you, the marriage has not been a bed of roses. We have gotten better by the years. Are you getting it? But you see, I couldn't have put myself out there and said I was ready for a woman. When I became a Christian, after all the trauma, all the crisis that I was carrying around, I was just going to make a shipwreck of anybody whose life I came into at that time.
I'm happy that you touched on this, Taiwo, because it's very important that we understand how to get out of that programming, because we have been programmed, whether we like it or not. We all are living a particular program. Some are palatable, some are not. But let's take a very short break. When we come back from the break, we want to discuss how we can begin to come out of these situations to help deprogram the child. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Right, so thanks for staying with us. If you just tuned in, we're having an amazing, very sober, but it's an amazing chat with Taiwo Akinlami on protecting the child amidst what's it called, domestic violence, right? Now, please let us share what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation, send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-8463. You can also tweet at us at WadeShowAfrica1 with the hashtag WadeShow. Taiwo, before we went on a break, I mean, you touched on a very important thing that I am trying to see how, because we're trying, in all of this, we're trying to find a solution, right?
Yes, way forward.
So whether we like it or not, some children have witnessed violence to the point of killing somebody else. So already in my mind, they've been programmed to understand that it is okay to kill somebody. They've been programmed to understand that it is okay to kick people.
Be violent.
It's okay to fight people. It's okay to slap people.
It's
Some
normal.
people do not see those things as abnormalities.
It's normal. It has become
I tell
normal.
people that I have never fought in my life. Like, I literally, this one, you say you had street fights, all these things. I've never experienced it. I don't know what it feels like, right? So I don't know how. I just walk away. If I see that you are beginning to act crazy, I just walk away from you. But that is not the experience of a lot of people. Some people actually have
means
not.
you have never Bianca somebody.
I've not Bianca anybody. Some people have actually normalized, right? Abuse, violence. And this violence that we've even been talking on Taiwo, because I'm already saying that we're going to do a series on this, because all this what we have been talking about is physical. We've not even
talked about the emotional,
we've not verbal, we've not talked about all
this.
verbal.
To a woman.
Yeah.
Neglect, even the neglect of a child.
Let me tell you something that happened to a woman. This woman was not being beaten by the husband, but the husband had topped every sense, every dignity of human person out of her. And one day she carried a huge amount of money. She's into retail business. She banks with one bank who is located on one side of town. Now she carried her money to a bank in the other side of town and lodged the money there. When you fill this deposit slip, you put your number there. They now called her and said, "Madam, what bank do you use?" She said, "So bank." Said, "No, that's not the bank you brought money to. This huge amount. You brought it to another bank." He said, "What bank did I bring it to?" So they mentioned to her, these are two different banks.
Wow.
In opposite sides of town.
She has lost
their brand color, their branding is not the same. So that's how she came alive to say, "Oh, so sorry. So that's why I brought the money." He said, "Yes." Now she had to go back and collect that money. Now, this is what I'm saying. You are right. We have only accounted for those who are killed. We have only accounted for those who are battered. What about those who have lost their souls? What about, I met a lady. The day she came to meet me, she's married to a lawyer who is a violent man, very abusive. And this lady came to meet me. They asked her to come and meet me. The day she came, she was wearing this old lace, material. She put one head tie, wore one old shoe. I said, "Madam, did you go to school?" She said, "I went to Unilag. I read computer science." I said, when she began to speak, what she was, her speech was not commensurate to her posture. She has been defeated. She has been dealt with. She has never worked, and she's married to a lawyer. So domestic violence is beyond physical. Is beyond physical.
Absolutely.
Even sometimes the emotional, the financial, and all of those other ones, they are even more deadly in some cases than the physical abuse. And especially a lot of times we are yet to come to terms with mental health issues.
Absolutely.
Issues that are created by virtue of how a woman is spoken to, how a man is spoken to, how children are treated. And one thing we need to understand is that we need to take inventory. Because pain does not have exhaust. Pain must be healed. And time does not heal it except we find solutions. So the way forward for me, number one is that people must speak out.
Right.
Find an accountability partner. Don't die in silence. There must be someone you can speak to. You don't do life alone. People say when the going gets tough, the tough must keep going. But Mr. Lakulishoyan says no. When the going gets tough, the tough must seek collaboration.
Right.
You must seek collaboration. You can't just be going. Because that was olden days. The tough cannot just be going. The tough must seek collaboration. So we are created for relationship. Right. There must be someone you can confide in. And there must be someone who can tell you the truth in your circle of influence, your circle of friends. So the first thing I want to say is that if anybody is expressing any form of abuse, any form of violence, it is important that you confide in someone. And it's not someone that will condone what is going on. Number two, I don't think a woman or a man should remain in an abusive relationship.
Right.
So you may say we shouldn't go by way of divorce, but you can separate. Separate, go for counseling, find professional help. Because when children are witnessing abuse and you stay there, you are complicating matters for those children. Now the children are not receiving help. They are seeing more abuse every day until it become normalized before them, and they become violent people themselves. They go to school and they demonstrate what they say at home. A child went to school. He said, I will slap you the way my daddy slaps my mom.
Wow.
That's what he told them in school. He said, and the boy is this a boy in nursery school? He said, I will put you in the toilet. I will flush you down.
Wow.
Making a boy who was there to be 5 years or between 4 and 5, making those kind of statements. A boy went to school. I'll tell you this pathetic story. The boy was always talking back to teachers. When they spoke to this nursery 1 or 2, when they spoke to him, he would speak back to them. So they invited the dad and said, excuse me, this your son is too aggressive. He doesn't listen to anybody. The dad said he knew what was going on. What has happened was that they lost their mom, two children. The younger one was like 2 years old. He was 3 years old when their mom died. And so the father remarried like a year after or thereabouts. Then the father, is not always at home. Now, this new wife was always in the habit of, maltreating these children. And so that 4-year-old has assumed the status of always fighting for the younger sister. So from there, she's under siege. He was under siege. So when he got to school, he was demonstrating that violence, that violence tendencies. Though he was small, though he couldn't do much, but that seed was already being sown. We cannot allow children to continue to witness violence. In the name of the Father, we don't want to leave our home. Now, please note, I'm not saying leaving home is the first thing we must do. Since 2011, I wrote an article for the Punch, which was published in the Punch in 2011, and I repeated that article in 2016 in an expansive manner for the Lagos State Government Domestic and Sexual Violence Response Team. And I was saying there are 3 things involved. Number 1, if you witness violent people tells you don't tell anybody, keep it to yourself. You can't tell anybody what is going on in a marriage, particularly when the marriage is supposed to be picture perfect. What you are preventing outside is different from what is happening inside. And so, but what you must do is to speak out. You must find someone. You must dig your well before you are tested. Find someone to speak to. Number 1. Number 2, if you speak to a friend and all of that does not work, look for NGOs. Don't go to the police ordinarily, because the Nigerian police, I'm not blaming them, they are yet to come to terms with the reality that domestic violence is a crime.
issue. Yes.
They always feel that it's a family matter. Like they told a woman, police told the woman, she said, have you been married to this man? The woman said, I've been married to him for 15 years. If he has not killed you in 15 years, what told you he's going to kill you now? My friend, go back home. But what we advise people to do, go to NGOs, well-established NGOs, who are dealing with issues of domestic violence.
Support.
When you go to them, they are the ones that will approach the police on your behalf. Approach the police on your behalf so that the police can handle the matter well. And it doesn't matter the level of your education. A lot of times, police is no respecter of persons when it comes to their idiosyncrasies, their belief system on the issue of domestic violence. They believe it's family matter. My client has gone to police before. By the time she was narrating what happened to me, because I was calling her, she wasn't picking, the DPO's wife told my client, apologize to your husband. What is it? Kneel down. I will pray for you. That's what the woman faced there. And we had to petition that particular police station on the basis of what our client experienced there, because they messed her up. They prevailed on her. They made her to begin to apologize to the abuser who was messing her, who was beating her blue black with pictures, her face, everything. So we need that. Then finally, we need to do an advocacy. Poverty is a major issue.
Right.
We are talking about women empowerment, very key. Women empower themselves. That is for women that can empower themselves. 90 million Nigerians are living in abject poverty. 45 million are living in borderline. So when we talk about this empowerment of women, yes, women must empower themselves. What about women that woman who read computer science now, who has never gotten a job, who was out of job? So what is she going to do? So we cannot discuss all of these matters without discussing it within the context of the state of the nation. That is very, very unpalatable, that is very, very harsh, that is very, very hard for people. So people want to start business, people want to do something with their lives. where are the opportunities? So that is why we have to make an advocacy to government to take responsibility for some things. Then we need to go to our religious bodies. They need to begin to address these issues. There is no reason why we should not have departments within religious places of worship dealing with the issue of domestic violence beyond marriage counseling, beyond all of that. There has to be an agency. There has to be an internal regulation body that people can go to. And it's not going to be about go-ahead divorce. It's not going to be about go and continue to push it. It's going to be about what help can we find for you, psychosocial support, therapy, absolutely. And if we need to involve the law, we involve the law.
And financially as well. Absolutely. I was going to ask Taiwo Akinlami if you could just quickly suggest some of the NGOs that you've talked about, if you can just quickly suggest. Then again, for the children, right? If somebody is watching now and they know that the child has experienced series of battery violence and all of that, how should they go about it? Can they reach you? Is there some bodies that they can start to speak to now so that we can declutter the minds of those children? Okay,
good. So number one, there are, in Lagos State, there is Domestic and Sexual Violence Response Agency. If you go online, you get them. You can get Project Alert. Project Alert is very big on domestic violence. WARIF is also very big. These are names that you can just Google and they're there. You can talk to us also. My number, you can reach me by WhatsApp. Till last week we were dealing with a major case of domestic violence where we had to involve the Domestic Violence Response Agency in Lagos State. And because for us, we work with children, but we know that children are taken care of by men and women. So when these men and women are distressed, we are also concerned, because so we are also interested in that area.
Holistic
so
help.
If you can go to our website TaiwoAkinlami.com. You can send me a WhatsApp message at 0.0 08033620843 08033620843. Send me a message. We have a network of support for you, that we can speak to, and we are going to make sure that what ought to be done is done. Our children cannot be left to the throes of domestic violence. These children did not write application to come to this world. Absolutely. They were not the one. They are not the cause of the trouble. We cannot continue to increase crisis, increase casualty when we are trying to deal with the matter. I think those who are married should be matured enough to be restrained by the fact that the little ones are observing them. But when they are not even restrained because they are dealing with their own issues, it is important that society must intervene. I hope you know that in Lagos State, there's what we call mandatory reporting. So even if you are a neighbor and you witness that abuse is going on, it is your responsibility to speak up. Do you also know that under the domestic violence law in Lagos State, you can report? You don't have to be the one witnessing domestic violence. You don't have to be the one expressing domestic violence. But if you witness it, you can report. You can be a prosecution witness. By virtue of the fact that you are witnessing it, the law has empowered you to that point. It is, even if the person being abused is not ready to go that route, you can take the responsibility and say that I am going to
be your brother's keeper.
In this matter. I'm going to be the complainant in this matter. The law has empowered you that much. And so you should rise up. It's not about my family, my family. She said she doesn't want. She said that's what she wants. It's not that one. If you are in a place of observation, if you are in a place where you have witnessed domestic violence over and again and again and again, you can step in and become the person that will save this person, because the person himself or herself might have lost his or her mind, and you are doing it in the best interest of these children.
Absolutely. Let's take some comments, and Norma, if you have a final question.
Yes, I do. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, he's answered my question.
Okay, so let's take the comments.
So I'll take the comment. I have a comment here from Bobby Kennedy in Jalingo, Taraba State, and it says that the trend of abuse of children through the effect of domestic violence at their midst is just unfair on the kids. It makes them vulnerable and also leads to different types of violence, hard drugs taking, cultism, terrorism, to name a few. Do you know how a kid feels when he sees his dad hit his mom? It's a trauma that remains with them for a long time. Great topic, and may God help us all. Thank you, Bobby.
So thank you.
Comment. Well, I totally, Taiwo just hit the nail on the head. And I think my takeaway this evening is the support base and awareness. The same way, you know, in civilized climes, they say 911, if you see something, call or make a complaint or something. People need to be aware. People need to begin to take up that responsibility to be their brother's keeper. It's not enough for you to just say, be quiet and say, it's not happening in my backyard. You know, you have to be able to speak up for someone who can't speak for themselves. Those children cannot speak up for themselves. And like I said earlier, societal, we have to begin to develop a community that cares, a community that is concerned for the welfare of our children. Be on the alert.
Absolutely. And Taiwo, I was just going to leave this last word for you, because what really broke my heart, you know, especially with Osinachi's story, was the fact that a lot of people in the circle kind of knew that she was going through that.
They didn't do
and, you know, so I mean, why do we always wait till something, there's a death, they will now come out on social media and start to talk about, oh, she was this, she was that. Like, how do we even start to, you know, if you can wrap it up in like a minute, how do we really start to say, you know what, let me deal with this situation proactively without getting to the point of death? Especially because, you know, this thing is beyond just, you know, us. There's a generation that is also being groomed for that.
The loss when death occurs is colossal. It has unusual impact on the children. Now the children lose
on both sides.
Both parents.
The children lose on both sides. They lose their mom or their dad. Then justice takes its course. Then that person rots away in jail, or the person is sentenced to death. That's why we must prevent death by all means necessary. I think the way to do that is to cry out, is to speak up. Don't die in silence. That's what I can just say. Just find someone you can talk to, someone you can confide in. I know people go to the restaurant and they write something and they just leave it on the table there. You know, you see that a lot in developed countries. Just put it there to say,
and the waiter takes it up.
You know, and somebody picks it up and somebody calls the police. You must be thinking about survival, because the covenant of marriage, I don't think it's as important as the covenant of life, because it is only the living that can contract a marriage.
Absolutely.
And so the impact of that on children is huge. So, and children must be the motivation. Another motivation why we must run away from abusive relationship, and those children, we must look for help for them. We must not just leave the scene and say that everything is okay. No, we must not only leave the scene, we must look for support, therapy, psychosocial support. Whatever we can do for those children, we have to ensure that they don't repeat that error in their own future.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Akinlami. You are an amazing person, because it was such short notice, but you always answer the call.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Which is my command.
We are going to be talking about this more, because we want to bring a lot more people out of that dead zone. Thank you so much, Taiwo Akinlami. Thank you, Norma. We had a fantastic conversation. All right, so before we go, ensure you follow us on Instagram at PlusTvAfrica. You can interact with us further, drop a comment, and more importantly, follow all our engagements on social media. Please, if you know anybody that is going through domestic violence or whatever, even if the person is not willing to come out, reach out to Taiwo Akinlami. He's on social media. You can reach out to him. Go on their website. You see the number to call. It is important that you help the person, because at this point, they do not know that they need help. So we need to start to help people, genuinely look for solutions for people, and let them come out of these deadly situations. If you missed today's quote, right, here it is again. It is every adult's job to make sure that all children are raised surrounded by love and acceptance instead of abuse and violence. So it is all our job. It's a collective work. We cannot just be isolated. Let's all come together to save the generations ahead. We'll see you guys live tomorrow at 8 p.m. as we bring another great conversation to your screen. Enjoy.